So it's interesting. We're in chapter 6. In fact, I titled the lesson "The Lamb and the Seals." I don't know the Bible. I might have even gotten a title off a Bible chapter. 7 seals, but there aren't 7 seals in chapter 6. And in fact, what you'll find is you have 6 of them in there, and then 7, we have kind of a pause for a moment, and then chapter 8 is the 7th seal, and then all kinds of things. But we're going to at least glance at 7 seals today. And I think it is fascinating that Kathy brought up some crackpot outfit. What do they say? This is another one of these let's head to the mountains people, or we're just going to sit at home and count the days, or what are they doing, Kathy?
Well, what I saw was just that people are doing like TikToks and whatever about the end days, that it's coming soon.
Oh,
It's going to happen. And
scaring everybody.
That Trump and Netanyahu were doing pointing toward it.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that too this morning. See, it's interesting how all this gets twisted around. I said, Bill, the other day, I said, Jesus said to the Pharisees, you can look in the sky and see the signs of the weather, but you can't see the signs of the coming of the Son of Man. The other thing he tells us is, I come at a time when you think not. So all these crazy people running around, and we're going to talk about some of that in a minute. As I've said to the class, I don't know how many times, I've taught the end times revelation, the things that we've been going through the last 24 weeks, a lot. And I've studied it a lot. And I didn't realize how much I'd been doing till something occurred to me the other day. So you'll have to follow Wes's loose. The Wall Street Journal came out with an article. It doesn't look like the Wall Street Journal, but trust me, it is. It's just when you print it off the internet. And the headline in the Wall Street Journal on September the 23rd, Peter Thiel wants everyone to think more about the Antichrist. Wall Street Journal. Now, I like the Wall Street Journal. I have most of my life. It's the best source of news that I think that you can trust. Just me. If they have a bias, I don't see it. And it's usually news. If they have opinions and things, it's in the opinion section, as opposed to these other people that just spout all this stuff off. So I like the Wall Street Journal. And when we get to the Antichrist, we're going to talk about this article, because you don't know Peter Thiel, I'm sure. Underneath the headline, it says, during appearances, the billionaire has offered his analysis on technology, government, and a biblical perspective on the end times. And there are some wealthy Christians out in Silicon Valley. All the ones that are mentioned in here are billionaires, very wealthy and Christian. Wow. It's all about AI and whether it ought to be regulated or not is what it's really all about. And when we get to the Antichrist, it's a fascinating article. But I'm reading this, and as I'm reading it, I remember I was teaching, we were living in Hawaii, and Sherry and I liked everywhere, most places we lived, I think. Sherry and I liked having home Bible studies. And we'd invite the neighborhood, the church, all sorts of things. And when you do that, if you're trying to really get your neighborhood, you're usually starting out with a Bible study about, for example, I brought a child evangelism guy in that I knew on the island, and we learned a song that teaches you the books of the Bible. Can't remember it now, but I know the books of the Bible. But if you're bringing in your neighbors and whatnot, that little kid's song about the books of the Bible, they're learning and they don't know it, that sort of thing. I asked them, what would you like to study? And one of them wanted to find out why there's red letters in some people's Bibles. So one week I gave him a lesson on the background behind the red letter Bible. Just all kinds of things like that. Well, end times, if you want to attract the community, end times will do it every time, as you can see from what's going on there. So we decided we would do an end time Bible study. Oh, this is the one I think I was telling you about, the potluck. So we'd have a potluck every now and then along the course of the study. And instead of having people sign up, all of that, I just said, look, bring what you like. We're living in Hawaii. I mean, you get all sorts of cultures, food and whatnot. I said, bring what you like. We'll have a great old time. By the 6th or 7th person coming through the door, we had around 14, 15 people, about half, chicken. Every dish coming through the door was chicken. And it got so funny that as the next bit, hey, look who's brought. I'll bet you brought chicken. How'd you know? We had 14 or 12 or whatever it was, chicken. That was all that was there. I learned a lesson about potlucks. Well, I'm teaching this end time study, and I don't remember. It may have been this lesson, actually. I don't remember. But I remember making the comment because somebody said something. And I said, well, for that to happen, Anwar Sadat would have to get killed. And he was assassinated the next day. I mean, wow. The end is near. Wow. Oh, it was good grief. I thought, I am never saying anything like that again.
The FBI show up at your door?
Oh, the class, phone calls. Wes, did you hear the news? Well, I was thinking about all that this week, this article and all that. And I thought, now, when did Anwar Sadat get assassinated? October the 6th. There's something about October in the Middle East, I got to tell you. October the 6th, 1981. And that reminded me that I have been teaching for 45 years. Started in 1980 officially with the first class and all that. So 45 years. I'm not just teaching classes, I've been studying this. There must be something to it. And every time that I do, and we'll get a couple lessons in yet, I have a folder I keep at home with things that hit the news, like this guy here. If I remember right, one of them, we were talking about apostasy in the church, one of the signs coming. That was the week the Pope issued one of his papal declarations. The Bible is not the only word of God. Or no, wasn't that? No, he came out and I know what it was. There's more than one path to God. That's what he said. And I think he was trying to appease the Muslims, frankly. All kinds of things. The headlines, massive disease breakouts and, all this COVID, everybody thought that was Hitler executing all the Jews. He must be the Antichrist. We're not looking at the right thing. This guy's searching for the Antichrist. Why isn't he searching for Christ? That sort of thing. I tell classes, keep your eye on Jerusalem and Israel. The Bible says pray for the peace of Israel. That's what you got to watch. Now, having said all of that, before we get to these seals, how about this week? Probably most of you didn't see it. I watched the first 20 minutes and decided that was enough. I had to get to work. Netanyahu addressing the UN. What did he say? Just the bottom line, what did he say? Oh, he said, we are, what he said in between the lines is we're not going to have a two-state solution anymore. And we are going to annex the West Bank, which if Israel takes over that, then the Palestinians they already got Gaza. I mean, that's stripped down there. And the West Bank, those are the two places. And he specifically mentioned Bethlehem when he was speaking at the UN. How letting the Palestinians have Bethlehem has ruined it, and that there are almost no Christians living in there anymore. Says we give them, essentially, he says we give them responsibility in an area to live in and manage on their own, and look what they do with it. And Bethlehem was one of the ones he pointed out. I was talking to the pastor about that earlier. Well, either the same day or the next day. No, I think it was before his speech. Trump said at a press conference, I am not going to allow Israel to annex the West Bank. Oh, you're not going to allow Israel to, oh, what's Israel think of that? Then, 2 days back, I think, can't remember, it all sort of runs together. He had his press conference where he announced that on Monday or Tuesday this week, he's meeting with Netanyahu because he believes they have a peace deal now that will free all the hostages, everything. It's going to solve all of everybody's problems. And he's going to brief it to Netanyahu Tuesday or Wednesday or something like this. Nobody understands the Jewish mind except the Jewish person. And they are not. If they go for whatever's coming across, I'll be totally surprised. So uncertain as to whether I'm taking a tour group over there next year or not right now. Every day is a new day. But it is interesting when you start studying end time, how much stuff is actually going on around you that's got end time in it. That's everybody just fascinated with it. But we don't want to know the fascinating part. We want to know the truth. And then we want to be able to pass that truth to others and to others and to others so that we are not misled. Christ warns us, be aware, watch out, blah, blah, blah. So not blah, blah, blah. Sorry about that. I'll edit that out. But yeah, Christ said blah, blah, blah. No, he did not. Yeah, we don't want to be misled by all this hype and media. And oh my goodness, it's just horrible. I don't know who that was. So I was going to mention in class this morning how this article, and she's talking about, hey, there's a group on, and the interesting thing is it's fascinating for people. So they're more than willing, as I said, you want to get your neighbors, you're lost into the room, just have an end time study. Everybody seems to be fascinated with it until you get to the gospel, and then suddenly, well, no, that. I had in this group, I had a guy, well-educated fellow, and we went through Revelation, and somewhere just before Christ's return, he got up at the end of a class and was quite upset with me, really upset, which means God was really getting to him. You people, when they start out like that, you people, you in that Bible, listen, that totally discounts man's ability to sort these things out for themselves. And all of this, in those days, there's going to be a big environmental disaster and the sea turns red and so on. We'll get to all that. And the only solution is for your Jesus to come back. No. We've been on the face of the earth for yada, yada, and so on and so on. And look at the technology we got today. This was in the 80s. Look at the technology we got today and so on. This stuff's never going to happen. You're just using it to scare people with. And I've heard that from more than one. I've also heard from Christian friends, we shouldn't be doing this study. And I don't know if you've been around any of those people. You shouldn't be looking into the end time. You should just leave that alone until it is the end, that sort of thing. No, we need to know the truth. God put it in there for us to know. Pardon me? Yeah. God put it, open it when it's time. When's it time? No, this grounds our faith. I mean, just you can't be swayed by like a willow in the wind kind of thing. Anyway, I'll just start preaching and we're not going to get to the lesson. So one of the things that I wanted to point out today, when we first started in Revelation, I had a series of lines all over the place. Well, today we're gonna see some lines, and we like chronology. We like chronological things. Step 1, step 2, step 3. We're here because Christopher Columbus came over. Whatever it is, chronological things. You can't do that with the Book of Revelation. So this, as an example. So this is our tribulation period, of course. This would be our mid-trib point. Some people, I've seen it done two different ways. No, I don't want to do that. No, not that. Let's just use. Some people call this the period of great tribulation. But I have also seen this done here. 6 months to go before Christ's return is the Great Tribulation. And they base that on the fact that when we get through this series of, we're going to start looking at judgments now, the worst ever to be laid on the earth has to be short-lived. It doesn't, when we get to it and the trumpet blows and the bowls and all that, it doesn't have times in it. But the theology is you couldn't survive. And in fact, when Christ returns, they couldn't survive. The earth would, they were kind of self-destruct. So the theory then is that when we get to that last set of judgments, it's those last 6 months, and that's the period of great tribulation. But most people say, no, it starts right here. And of course, right here, for those of us who've been around more than a day or two, we know this is when the abomination gets set up and the Antichrist breaks the peace that he had with Israel. So this is usually referred to as the Great Tribulation. All right, so there's your chronology. How these fit in there, good luck. And what we see, what's going to happen next, so we're going to have 7 seals, and then, heaven help me, I think it's 7 trumpets, and then it's the bowls, if I remember right, yeah. So you got 7, 7, 7. All of that. But these are, and they get more specific. That's the other thing that happens. These are broad judgments that are going to begin right here. At least that's the theory. Now, the reality is, if you have these things right here, it isn't like everything's going to be hunky-dory till that day, and then on day one, all 7 of these things kick in. You get that layered thing I was trying to show you. But what you do have almost is a little bit of a cause and effect. And I'm going to read chapter 6, it's short, and then we're going to talk about each of these things. So we're in Revelation chapter 6, titled The Seals, and they don't mean the Navy. So it says, I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, come. I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and he was given a crown, and he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. So if we're drawing our little lines here, the first one that it tells us about is this rider on a horse, white horse, crown, going out to conquest. When the Lamb opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, come. And another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make people kill each other. To him was given a large sword. So in effect, this is war, conflict, unrest. We're seeing it today at a small degree, even if all you're talking about is the people trying to kill ICE agents while they're doing their job in their office building. But so this one, great period of unrest breaks out on the earth. When the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, come. I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. And then I heard what sounded like a voice among the 4 living creatures saying, 2 pounds of wheat for a day's wage, and 6 pounds of barley for a day's wage, and do not damage the oil and wine. And your black horse, that's the economy. And we'll put that up over there in a minute. And so, interesting, well, we'll talk about it when we get to it. That's the economy. When he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain because of the word of God and the testimony they had maintained. Now, these are souls under the throne. Remember that. These are not all the souls in heaven and so on. They called out in a loud voice, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?" Then each of them was given a white robe, and they were told to wait a little longer until the full number of their fellow servants, their brothers and sisters, were killed just as they had been. I watched, and as he opened the sixth seal, there was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon, which, by the way, you're not from that area. The black goat hair, goat skin, whatever you want to refer to it as, they make their tents out of that. And you see Bedouin tents that are black. That's what this is talking about. And it's black.
And it is sackcloth.
Sackcloth, okay. Yeah. Goat skin is what I call it. But it's black. Which always made me wonder, you're living in the desert and you want black. But I'm guessing it blocks the sun out so that inside the tent it's cool. I don't know, but they use it. They use it a lot over there. Sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red, and the stars in the sky fell to earth as figs drop from a fig tree when shaken by a strong wind. The heavens receded like a scroll being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Holy cow, talk about number 6. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both slave and free, hid in caves and among the rocks of the mountains. They called to the mountains and the rocks, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can withstand it?" And we'll dig into, there's just a ton here. The fourth seal? Oh, the death in Hades? Did I skip over it? Oh, sorry. Oh, I did. I did. I went from the wine down. I was drunk with wine. Yeah, you're right. I missed. I didn't read that. So starting in verse 7, when the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine, and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. And if we have time this morning, I hope we get down to number 4. I have some information for you on that one. So let's kind of walk through these seals for a minute. I'm sure the pastor knows this already. You guys might. Who rides a white horse?
The hero.
I'm sorry?
The hero.
The hero. I haven't heard that answer before. That's a good one. Who else rides a white horse? We would, yeah. Who's riding this white horse? He has a crown, and he has a bow, but he doesn't have any arrows. It's the Antichrist. The Antichrist, right? So he's trying to look like Christ, but he's not. And I think, doesn't it say in there something about how he comes to power, or it doesn't? I can't remember.
He came out conquering and to conquer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So there's a whole chapter coming. It's easy to remember what chapter in the Bible the Antichrist is. What chapter number would he be? Yeah. What chapter number would the story of the Antichrist be? 13. How hard is that to remember? We get to chapter 13. There's a lot here. But the white horse is the Antichrist. And so one of the things it's telling you, somewhere out here, whoever that Antichrist is going to be will be in the population. And we'll learn a lot more about him when we study that in chapter 13. But what this is saying is, he comes to power, right? He's got a thing on his head. He comes to power somewhere, probably right in, maybe even right here. It's a guess, we don't know. But he comes to power. He gets influence. He has authority, blah, blah, blah. And he's released. These are all judgments being released on the earth. He is released to do his thing. So somewhere out in here is Elvis, Soros, pick your favorite, the Antichrist, getting ready to be. Anyway, so that's one of the things that happens early, right? These are early judgments to start with, till we get to number 4, I think it is. The Antichrist. Who's riding the red horse? Well, nobody's riding it, I think. But what is? Oh yeah, it does. They all have riders. That's correct. So red horse is conflict. Now, this stands to reason. You have to think about this for a second. If the world was at peace, we wouldn't need the Antichrist, right? Because he comes in and the world's not at peace. So what you're going to understand is if you think today with Netanyahu and Trump and all the other things going on over there, nothing compared to what this is going to be like. And he comes along, the Antichrist, with a peace approach that solves everybody's problems. And they sign it on the first day. This is why I'm telling you he's out here somewhere in the beginning of that, because they're gonna make a peace agreement with the Antichrist here. Then they're going to rebuild the temple and start temple worship again. And then at the mid-trib, 3.5 years later, he breaks that covenant. So for him to come in and make a peace treaty, you'd have to have no peace. And that's what happens here, is that the red horse brings conflict in the world, big time. Then we're at the black horse. Now, this one's easy. What does a black horse represent, according to the scripture there? The economy, correct. And the worldwide economy is going to be a mess. And in fact, it'll be a worse mess by the time Christ returns. So what's this saying? It's saying, I should have looked up all of these bushel and grain and whatnot. I've got it in my notes somewhere back there. Anyway, it's basically saying that food is going to become incredibly expensive. But what's it saying about the oil and the wine? What the heck does that mean? The wealthy are not going to suffer. Now, it makes perfect sense if you're following the economy. In fact, I think today they say that, is it 50 or 51% of the economy is supported by the wealthy consumer? People can barely, at $3.25 a gallon for gas, and you got a 15-gallon, you got to pay $50 for gas every week. If you're only making, you got to work 3 hours in a week before taxes just to put a tank of gas in the car every week. Not talking about paying your mortgage and your car insurance and your, so on. And if you're, the $15 an hour person, you don't even have medical benefits. So you've got those, they can't go out and buy. Shouldn't probably say this, but I will anyway. Maybe I'll edit it out at the end. They couldn't go out and buy wine and oil, too expensive. When the economy is in trouble, the poor suffer, not the wealthy. And I've been on both ends of that spectrum. Every time I read this, I know exactly what they're talking about. We have people with Chelwood. We take food over to kids at Chelwood. Parents can't afford, Meanwhile, and I don't know these names. I'm not that kind of person, but your high-end purses and your high-end shoes and yachts and boats and private jets and all those are getting bought. They can't make enough private jets right now. That's why if you see on TV, occasionally you'll see on some of the sports channels, I think it is, you'll see you can rent a private jet. I want to go from here to there and I want to do it in a private jet. You can kind of an Uber thing. Meanwhile, people, they don't have medical insurance. They don't have this. They don't have that. They're struggling. They're driving a car that if it breaks down, they'll have no transportation at all. All of that is it's going to just get worse when we get to this period. So that's what it's saying. Don't harm the oil and the wine. Those were luxury goods back then. They still are to some degree. Although I don't know about any luxury olive oil that I'm aware of, but that's what it's referring to. There's going to be a great dichotomy. And you begin to see that, and not to get political, but when you watch Trump and all of the folks that are key influencers or that he thinks are key influence, when he's over in the Middle East or when he's in, wherever he's going, look at this, went to England and the big deal they threw for him over there with the king and all that sort of stuff. This is the environment that the Antichrist will be operating in. And again, I get on the Antichrist, we won't get anywhere done, but the wealthy are going to be very much involved in end time. That they are now. In fact, this article is a wealthy guy. So there's a lot to do about wealth. And between the conflict and the economy going sour, we end up with our fourth one. And of course, this is death. Death in Hades, the temporary holding spot for dead, lost people, if you will. Oh, come on, Houston, you can do better than that. So the first four judgments, death and Hades. Now, yeah, we got 5 minutes left, and we'll stop on this one because I'm going to share something that's interesting with you. What does it say? Can somebody read that verse again? Is that we start in 7 on that one? Verse 7.
Yes.
Yeah, can you read that again?
When he opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, "Come." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And its rider's name was Death. And Hades followed him. And they were given authority over a fourth of the earth to kill with sword, and with famine, and with pestilence, and by wild beasts of the earth.
So, sword, famine, I'm going to say disease.
Pestilence.
Yeah, I'm going to say disease. Yeah. And wild beasts, I think it said, which seems a bit interesting now, but who knows. All right. And that's all, that's this seal. All right.
Wouldn't that be Africa?
I'm sorry?
Wouldn't that be Africa?
Oh.
Of Europe?
Well, I don't know that they represent a fourth of the earth, but a lot of these other things would fit right in with them, wouldn't it? Yeah. Oh, let me tell you, we're gonna look at a couple interesting things now. How many died? World War II is considered the bloodiest battle ever on the face of the earth that anybody's aware of. How many people died, civilian and military, in World War II?
30 million.
Pardon me?
30 million.
50 to 55 million military. And I think it's 15 to 20, 15 to 20 million civilian. So the mid-range is about 75 million. It could have been as high as, I think I saw one number at 82. 75 million. So today, what's our population today?
7 billion plus.
Yeah, it's I got it. I put it down as 8 billion.
Makes the math easier.
Yeah. Well, and the way it's going, it could be 8 billion. So 8 billion today. They're going to kill a fourth of the earth. And the consensus is that starting with this seal, which is the fourth seal, isn't it? Yeah. Starting with the fourth seal, that's right here. So what happens in the second half, remember he breaks this peace treaty, what happens in the second half then is that a fourth of the earth is killed by sword, famine, disease, and beasts. So if that happened today, That's 2 billion people. You're going to have 2 billion people die over 3.5 years. So what? And I got the math here somewhere. It works out to, I think, 40 million. Come on. I did that on purpose because I didn't want to try to do it while I was on the board here. Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay. 48 million. So if it happened today for 3.5 years, and of course nothing does an average, but that's 48 million a month, or 12 million people a week for 3.5 years are going to die during this period. That means that all the people who died in Revelation or World War II, approximately 2 months worth. This would be about 2 months worth of death. 2 months. It's going to be horrible. Now, I even copied this little piece right here found on World War II. What happens? What are some of the results of war besides death and injury? These other things: famine, disease, animals running wild, if you will. It's awful. Disease is a common thing with war, by the way. In fact, the Old Testament, we see it all through the Old Testament. The Romans would camp by stagnant water, unaware that it's a cholera breeding ground, and the army would be toast, that sort of thing. The wars and things, all the conflicts that are going on in here are going to bring on these things right here: sword, famine, and disease. They did during World War II. Same thing. Any war, any conflict. Now you have a war going on that is so bad, or all these other things as well, that you're killing off 12 million people a week. Wow. And that's if the population is today. Suppose it's 12 million by the time he gets here. The death and suffering is going to be horrific, absolutely horrific. Okay, we're going to stop there because I want to continue with these. It's already 10:15.
What was that treaty that you said was broken?
The treaty.
Treaty?
The Antichrist makes a peace agreement with Israel. And in fact, that's how he sort of comes to power. So we'll get to it, but top line, let's just assume for a minute that all the wealthy countries in the world need something Israel has, but they don't want to get along. I mean, here's Saudi Arabia right now. They are trying to get a trade agreement with Israel, but their demand is they won't do that unless Israel sign peace with the Palestinians and restore the Abraham Accord, the two-thing solution. So we don't know what it will be about. But in effect, the Middle East, at least, maybe the world, is going to be in turmoil, and Israel is going to be in the middle of it. And this guy's going to rise up as an influential person and figure out an arrangement that the Jews will like, to the point where they lay down their weapons. And all the Muslims and whoever else are also okay with it. And for 3.5 years, this whole period of peace here. And then things happen, which we've studied before, but we'll see them again, that cause the Antichrist to go, no, that's it. We're done with you. You're the reason all this is happening. They blame everything on the Jews. Surprise, surprise. And you end up in the second half. And all these things happen now. So,
there's 3 Christian universities in Bethlehem. Bethany Bible College is one that I kind of followed because I read it a few years ago.
oh, okay.
Biography of the guy that started it, and he was Palestinian.
Yeah.
He
This is in Bethlehem. Yeah, Palestinian, correct.
And his Christian testimony is incredible.
Yeah.
From the time he was
When you go over to Jordan, I've spent a lot of time in Jordan, 40% of the Jordanian population is Christian. and active. I mean, churches, the whole, just like you'd see here in this country.
Research stuff.
Well, no, I understand what he's talking about. Have you been to Bethlehem since the Palestinians got control of it? Yeah. I'd have to edit all that out too, so we'll just skip it for now. Yeah, no, we had Christian. So what happens is, I'll run a little long for a second. When you go into Palestinian-controlled areas like the West Bank with Jericho and so on, or when you go into the Bethlehem, as another example, you have to have a Palestinian bus driver and a Palestinian tour guide. So they pull up at a toll booth looking thing. Our driver and tour guide got out. These two people get on. And while you're in Bethlehem, you're with these two Palestinians. She was Christian, out of like Brooklyn or something. But Palestinian by birth. Just a weird place to be. All right, we need to close in prayer. The pastor's got to go out and shake hands, and I could use a donut. So.